to go out quite quickly to the floor, but I did want to just sort of maybe come back on a few things that were said.
I think you're allowed.
Good. Skepticism, I think, when you invited it, really, didn't you? But before I come to that, actually, I just wanted to sort of comment, Bruce, on what I thought were, you know, the options that you were giving us here. I have to say I got quite depressed at the thought that I had to make a choice. I only had two choices. And that neither of them appealed to me, I have to say. That, you know, the sort of hedonistic, brave new world where everything's about abolishing pain and just enjoy, unless you enjoy pain, of course, in which case. It's all those machines. And so, you know, that or the Mormon vision of the sort of modern religion that gives you the sort of spiritual side, ethical, provides you with an ethical framework in which to become very successful and wealthy and so on, and reproduce yourself and so on. And it sounded dangerous to that. It just sounded a bit like a sort of utilitarianism, but more sort of zapped up a little bit and made a little bit more contemporary. I wasn't satisfied with either of these. And it occurred to me that in answer to the question, what has science got to say about human nature, it seems to me it's got plenty to say about it. And plenty of interesting things to say about it. But I'm not sure how easily these translate into political or social questions, like what kind of society do we want to live in? What kind of world do we want? And I think, you know, it comes up with lots of interesting questions about what makes us human, but I'm not sure if it really could simply provide a blueprint, therefore, for what kind of, because it seems to be quite reductive, quite limiting in many ways. On the other hand, I preferred, Igor, your description of humanity. I thought it was much more like me. I liked it, this sort of sympathetic, caring, emotional, and sometimes skeptical being. I felt it came closer to, you know, if you like, an idealized or a more rounded humanity. But then I wondered how on earth, you know, that could be made into, how that could be made into a piece of kit, you know. And the laptop, I don't think even Aristotle, I don't think he might have been astonished, of course, at the ingenuity of people to make laptops and so on. But you know, the question for me is, could the laptop make me? You know, could the machine make me? And you're going to tell me, of course, I'm sure that one day it could. But those are the sort of questions that I have, and I feel that that you know that while raising questions about what it is to be human, I don't think we're getting any answers here. Bruce, can I get some response from you on my challenge to your two rows?
Well, I think the key thing is that I was suggesting that these are the only coherent views. The fact that you don't like them is quite understandable. The people here are a sample of the intellectual elite of our society, and I don't expect anybody that I wouldn't expect very many people in the room to actually like these choices. The intellectual elite likes to worry about the moral problems of transcendentalism and the changing in human nature. This is a mainstream aspect of intellectual discourse for the last several decades. And the intellectual elite also hates evangelical Christian type religion, Mormonism, and so on. And so that's right. But my view is that those are the two coherent paths to the future. If you actually think step by step. Most of the discourse is not coherent that we have, and I'm trying to say these are two actually coherent possibilities, the only two that I'm aware of.
But the technological, you kind of tied in technological advance with hedonism. You know, it feels
well, hedonism I actually don't know any Mormons, and I've never met a Mormon as far as I'm aware, but I know quite a lot of transhumanists, including one of the people who founded the World Transhumanist Association, Dave Pearce, a good friend of mine. And hedonism is what he uses to say that in this perspective, you are actually concerned with, you say pleasure, but it's a whole set of positive, fulfilling emotions and experiences, as against a whole set of negative things that you like to avoid. So hedonism is really this perspective of the individual organism has things that it likes and things that it doesn't like. And I think that that is the ethical basis of a huge amount of modern life. We are trying to abolish suffering and misery and pain and all those negative things. We're also trying to enhance happiness and joy and pleasure and all these other things. But it is actually at root, it's what does the individual organism, the human organism in this case, like, and what does it dislike?
But then, there's it's not just our own pain and suffering that we want to abolish. I mean, but one of the things that I noted in terms of the last discussion was, the question of empathy, that this idea of empathy, and that human beings actually are curious about other people's inner lives and other people's feelings, and so therefore, someone else's suffering can be as meaningful to me as my own.
But that's just another kind of hedonism. That's you saying it's pleasurable to you to believe that you're helping other people. It's a positive experience, and it clearly is. I'm not saying this is an illusion. Humans are social animals, and part of that is that we have positive experiences from alleviating the suffering of others or helping others, and we have negative experiences from the opposite. But I think it's actually it's still part of this hedonic perspective at root.
Okay, laptops. I hate the things. Mine's equipped with Vista. It's like having a terrible disease. The screen just goes blank every time. The point I was trying to make about laptops and Aristotle is that having subdivided the world into objects that are alive, and by alive it means that they grow, they procreate, they forage for food. And only some of them actually plan to do this, and they tend to be human beings and so on. And the rest of the world which is not alive, that there is something in between. And this is what the informational machine does. And we've only been aware of informational machines since about the 1940s. But that adds something to this division, which makes us skeptical about being able to deal with human situations in a fairly logical and mathematical way. So the laptop or the informational machine is just a little thought crutch. It's just a little model we can put in our heads and say, okay, well, we can start thinking about things in slightly different terms, but I don't think it'll be anything that's manufactured by Microsoft. Does that answer your question? I don't know. I didn't get a full feel for it.
I'm not expecting any of my questions to be answered today. Thanks for that. Thank you. And thanks to both speakers. Now I think we'll go out into the audience.